welcome, beautiful souls. Welcome our soul family to the live lounge. I'm Caroline Crawford.
And I'm Paul Crawford.
And Christina Althaea, I can see her up there waiting. I'm always happy to see her. Will be joining us from her Sprawling Oaks farm in Arcadia a little later. And on the show, we're talking about and discussing and exploring the healing energies of crystals, of rituals. Later on, I'm going to be showing you and hopefully playing this crystal ball that a friend, Cheryl, very kindly lent to us for the show. And Christine's going to be talking about making elixirs and rituals and a little altar with your crystals to really enhance your energies. So we're really looking forward to sharing with you all about crystals and healing. And Paul is going to start by telling us where crystals come from, a little bit about how they're made, their makeup, and why they work so well as they do, interacting with our energy. So I hope you sit back and relax. I know you've probably all got quite a little bit of knowledge already about crystals. So I hope we can bring you something a little bit new and just to get you reconnected with your crystals to really help you at this time. So Paul, would you like to go?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think so many times now people do take crystals as just part of their everyday life. And I remember growing up that it wasn't really part of my life when I was growing up. There's probably around us in its natural form, but it wasn't in the way that it is and understood today. But crystals, how are they formed? Well, they've been formed over, the natural crystals were formed over millions and millions of years. And it's basically the form of crystallization where within the Earth's crust, with the hardening of the liquid, coming into a more solid form, that actually started to create all the different crystals. And depending on what elements were present, gave the properties to those crystals. So that's the very basics of it all.
It is fascinating because there's so many different crystals.
There is, yeah, but you can also get man-made crystals as well, formed in certain ways. But crystals, you can also use them, or you can actually be formed as well from salt and water. You can do your own little test, and that can be formed like in 24 hours. It actually draws, the water's drawn and the salt is drawn together to form a more hard and compacted material, which is forming your crystals. So you could try that one at home.
I know there's like children have got crystal kits and sets now, so it's good to get your children interested. I know our grandchildren and our son was growing up love crystals, so can't get enough of them.
Well, we bought our granddaughter a crystal garden.
Yes, we did. Forgot about that.
So she could actually watch them growing, and she was really excited about that. But also it's people often forget, or maybe don't realize, that crystals were also used in the very first radio sets. They were used to actually assist in transmitting the radio waves. As well as being used in watches, hence the name quartz watches. So and the way that they use the quartz there, because it has a very consistent vibrational element to it. They used to create it into, obviously this is in minute terms, it's already sat in your watch, but they're created into a fork, almost like a tuning fork. And that fork was then stimulated. That would cause a vibration. And then that would be set to a little bit of micro software that then creates the time, or convert it into time. But it's actually a lot more accurate than mechanical and a lot cheaper as well. So that's why that came about and how they still use that today. But you may not know that crystals actually contain it's piezoelectricity. It's in its very natural formation of it. And that is used in, above all things, these lighters. So have you ever sat there and what reminded me about this, the good old YouTube, what comes up from that. And if the resistance in here, the way it works is that you're creating a force. As you pull down on the trigger, you're creating a force that then eventually releases this little hammer that hits these piezo electric crystals that then actually creates in their natural a spark that if the gap is close enough, actually you can see that spark. And then if you introduce a gas, as you do with these lighters, it then creates the flame. Okay, so it's all
satisfied
about
Paul's childhood little dream of finding things out about crystals, I'm sure.
But it's I hadn't even thought about that's what was causing that spark within this. So I got quite excited over that fact, you know. But that sort of like satisfies my physical element, that scientist. And also you have silicon crystals are actually used in forming our microchips that help run our computers, as well as being used in to create photovoltaic cells, which are used in solar panels, or the solar panels to create electricity. So they're
such a wide range then of crystals. I know, you know, we just think of them for healing, but they're contained in so many things that are quite important.
And just everyday things that we take for granted. But more importantly, well, for us anyway, they're also used for many other healing aspects. So, Caroline.
Well, they're very much part of the vibe. You know, everything is vibration. Everything is energy in the universe. Everything is vibrating and resonating at its own level. And crystals, I think, have become far more acceptable now as a form of self-care. You know, so many places you go now, you see them in stores, on the shelves, in yoga studios, in healing centers, so many places, because they're really good conduits for healing energy. And we know that they emit a positive, uplifting energy. They can emit energizing and calming vibrations that really help us achieve a more peaceful mind. And I find the best thing about them is they really cleanse and revitalize your energy. So they're great to use. I mean, you see, I pronounce this Labradorite. I think in America they call it Labradorite, but it's a beautiful crystal. And you know, I think a lot of us are often wearing crystal jewelry, but each crystal is said to have a different effect on the mind and the body. And I'm not going to go through all the crystals because, as I've said, they're so popular now, and there's so much information you can read online, in books. But I think we all use our intuition mainly to feel drawn to specific crystals. And I've always said that crystals talk to me, and they do call to you.
Yeah, definitely.
Paul said to me, don't go in that crystal shop, Caroline.
I know, whenever I say, I'm going to, there's this warehouse with selling really good value crystals, top quality crystals. And I'm thinking, okay, what are we going to be coming home with?
But they work because our bodies are electromagnetic organisms, and we have physical, emotional, mental and spiritual energies flowing through us all the time. And the crystals are a fun and unique way to really help direct and influence our energies. So ancestors, you know, the Egyptians used them for thousands of years. They were used for healing and energetic purposes. They were used going into protection, into battle, and they are mentioned in the Indian texts for specific medicinal purposes as well. But so when you buy a crystal, the very first thing to do, or if somebody has given you a crystal, is to remember that it is a living organism. And I always hold it and just thank it for coming into my energy field, for coming into my life. But the first thing we need to do is to cleanse that crystal. Now, depending on the crystal, I mean, if they're hard sort of solid crystals, like there's a crystal quartz and here's a moonstone, and these are quite, you know, solid, robust. But if you had one, and I think it's in the other room, that was quite fragile, then you wouldn't let it run underwater. You can cleanse them in salt water or run them under the tap, but if they're fragile, you don't want to do that because you would damage them. So you could light some sage and smoke it over them. But the absolute best, most powerful, natural way to cleanse and recharge and energize your crystal is in the light of the full moon, which we get every month. And next week on the 26th of May, we're very lucky. We have a super full moon and an eclipse, which is going to be very powerful. So if you already have your crystals, you know, that day or two before, leading up to the full moon, you can gather all your crystals. Now, if you've got somewhere safe, you can leave them out overnight. That is perfect. But don't worry if you can only leave them out for, you know, a few hours and bring them back in. You could put them on a windowsill, or if you're in a, you know, in a higher rise building, put them out on your balcony, maybe put them on something wooden so it's natural. But leave them out if you can overnight. If not, you can, you know, put them out the night before the full moon, or even 2 nights, because that energy is building up, and bring them back in when you need to, and then put them out again. And that energy lasts not just the night of the full moon, but afterwards as well. So they will get a really good re-energizing, really cleansing them. And then you need to program or set your intention with your individual crystal. Now, I tend to really only use all my crystals for healing purposes. But if you wanted to, say, cultivate more confidence, or to help with anxiety, or, you know, a short-term goal, you know, a need, maybe you did want to draw a happier relationship into your life, you can set that intention. And how you do that, so I'm going to pretend this is the crystal I'm going to set my intention with. So the first thing after cleansing it is, some people like to do it with the brow chakra, the third eye, but I was taught many moons ago to bring it into the heart center. And I think that's even more important now, because we want to live from the heart, and that's where our soul expresses itself. So bring it into your heart, get a nice, quiet, still mind, maybe take a few breaths, and then really think about your intention. So I always say, you know, thank you for coming into my life. May we work for the highest intention and highest good for healing energies. And then you state your intention, whatever that was, and repeat it 3 times, and just really feel you've made that lovely heart connection with your crystal. And then if you can, try and keep the crystal as close to your energy field as you can. If it's on a piece of jewelry, fine. If not, maybe you could put it under your pillow or somewhere you'll see it throughout the day. And that will just remind you and really reiterate that intention. And then the last thing to do after programming or setting your intention, after cleansing it, is to always give thanks. So give thanks for the many blessings in your life. Give thanks for that crystal coming into your life. And then you can just feel that the energies of that crystal, you know, I always feel that I have a growing bond with crystals. With this one, I use it to help. Actually, I've said healing, but it is sort of. This is what I call my writing crystal. So when I want a bit of help with writing my blogs or the book, I am starting to get there, I would meditate with this crystal. So cleanse them, set your intentions, give thanks.
Yeah. And I have, there's 3 crystals that I actually keep by my bedside, and these are what I use for when I'm meditating, and they're just that they resonated with me. I didn't even look up what their properties were. I wasn't really interested in that. All I knew was they just called to me, and that's why I just use them, and they just create that sort of really vibrant connection to my soul.
I think they're very personal, aren't they? I mean,
definitely.
I've gone into crystals, and a crystal, he said, I say, God, that crystal really wants to be with Paul's energy. And I say, I've bought you a crystal. So, and the good thing is they don't have to be expensive. You know, for children, you can have the smaller tumbled crystals.
Yeah,
but,
definitely. And just see what they're drawn to, which is the key thing.
Yeah.
But also I found that with the clear crystal, quartz crystals, they contain the whole spectrum of light. And this is why sometimes if you shine a light through a certain shaped clear quartz crystal, you can then get that light then fractures out into all the different colors that of the rainbow that are contained in the full light spectrum. So all those colors are contained in that, because the way it actually fractures it out. And also that then resonates to the same colors and frequencies of the 7 main chakras of the body.
And that's another good healing tip. You know, whichever part of the body you wanted to help with healing, or to energize, or to clear away any, you know, grief or sadness or anxiety, or just the rubbish from the past, you would use the corresponding crystal. So a red crystal for the root chakra, for bones and blood, the lymphatic system, for, you know, relationships and emotions and self-care. Very much the orange for the sacral, yellow for the solar plexus, and you could green or pink for the heart. I love blue lace agate for the throat, and I've got a lovely piece of lapis. Obviously I don't lay that on my third eye, but I will hold it. And amethyst for the crown. But you know, there's just so many different ways. But I think, are we ready to go to Christine before we?
Yes, we are. I'm just going to bring Christine in.
So we're going to go over to Christine. Christine's going to talk about making elixirs, and I'm so excited to see what she has for her offering. And can you hear us, Christine?
Absolutely. Can you hear me?
We can, loud and clear. How are you?
Excellent. I am wonderful. How are you?
Good, especially after our manatee experience on Saturday.
No, I am still on cloud 9 from swimming with manatees this past weekend.
Yeah,
that was
we'll just share. We had 15 manatees swimming with us in the shallow ocean on Saturday, and we were all just blown away. It was so emotional. And for 40 minutes they were coming back and swimming with us and through us, and it was just the most amazing experience, wasn't it? Very emotional. Yeah, we were very blessed.
It amazed me how they kept getting so close. They'd swim right next to you, but not a single one touched me. It's as if they knew exactly, like they that close. They unless they stuck my foot out, but I didn't want to mess with things.
Well, I had one actually went into the back of my legs, but I thought, nice. It was nice. Yeah. So, what have you got for us today?
Anyway. Well, I want to talk about the elixirs first, because, you know, with being a master herbalist, I like to concoct things. So there's 2 different ways. Now, when you make an elixir, basically what it does is it takes the energy of the crystal and it just sort of pulls it into a water source. So if you want to have drinking water that's enhanced with the properties of the crystal, then you can do. Now, there's probably many different ways, but I'm just going to share the way that I like to do it. You can do what's called the direct method, which means you put the crystals directly in the water. But personally, even though I know many crystals, especially like the quartzes, you can put directly in the water, I always wonder how pure it is or where it came from. And I know we're not trying to pull any like chemical properties out of there. We're not trying to pull hydrogen. We're trying to pull out the electrical, you know, the energetic property. So it doesn't actually have to touch the water. So, you know, the one way is you can put it in water. And what then I do is I wait for a nice sunny day and I'll put it out in the sun for the day to help the energy of the crystal get pulled into the water. And then I'll just put that water in a drinking container, you know. But the other way, and I have a little table here and I'm going to show you guys my little, I don't know if you can see that because it's a little bit whited out.
Oh, yes.
But I've got my little quartz crystals here, which see, there's a little brown spot on there, and I always wonder what that is. I'm like, what is that little brown spot? So I just put it in a nice little tiny little vase or a little whatever. I can even just use a plain canning jar. And then I pour water into, I like to use glass, you know, plastic. I don't like to put that stuff in my body.
No.
So I fill it to just about an inch under this, just so it doesn't slosh. And then I'll just put that in there so that the water really is around the crystals.
Yeah.
And then I'll take this little thing and I'll put it out in the sun just for the day, you know, and then I'll pour it into, you know, something I drink out of. But I don't know if you all have seen this before. One other thing that I have noticed is that they make these, I have this jar that I use for water sometimes, and I don't have one of these that I'm going to talk about, but this looks like it. And one day, maybe my birthday's coming up, so maybe I'll be buying myself a birthday present. But it's a jar for water, but there's a little compartment on the bottom, and you undo it, and inside that there's another compartment. And what you do is you either twist it off or pop it off, and you put your crystals in there, and then you close it up. And then you screw it back in the bottom and it's all sealed, you know, with a gasket. And then you fill it with water. And then you see a little mound of crystals in the bottom of your water. Oh, wow. And it, you know, it's a glass one.
Yeah.
So anyway, I've seen them around. I've seen them online. So that's a really easy way. You know, you can leave that in the sun, you know, or even if you didn't have sun, you're going to get some. But I like to put it in the sunshine because then I know it's going to help pull the energy out.
Yeah.
So those are the two different ways. I talked more about the indirect method, which is the one that I prefer. But you just have to be careful if you are going to do the direct method and put your crystals directly in, because there's lots of them that have different, you know, metals and, you know, lead or, you know, copper, and you don't want to have that infusing into your water. And I'm also going to suggest, this is sort of a sideline, but it's related. Whenever I work with elixirs or herbal remedies, I always try to use either a fresh filtered water, or I have my own distiller and I use distilled water. So tap water in my area is probably fine, but I still just like to filter it. I'm really cautious with spring waters, so this is just sort of a general FYI, especially when you're working with, you know, these healing things that you want to make for yourself. Spring water is not regulated at all. So you don't know what's in the spring water unless you want to test it. So I don't use spring water. I go and I buy the filtered water that's been through like a 10-step process, or I make my own distilled. So that's the elixir. And I just love drinking them because you just feel like there's some good energy in there, right? Yeah. And then we also talked about the benefits of rituals, because I like to use crystals a lot just to add energy and beauty. And just for everybody, here we got another show and tell. If you can kind of see it, I'll see how close my computer is, about that long. So I've got a little bit of a ritual set up here for solstice. And I like to use like reds and yellows, because these are all the vibrant colors of the season of summer, which is abundance and prosperity and creativity. So I've got myself a candle. So this is the light of my creativity. I have this wonderful little plant called the fire bush that grows. And when you set up these altars, what they do is they just give you intention. So they just give you, as you're setting it up and slowly selecting the items that you want. I also selected some, just some grains. I had some oats, some whole oats, just for abundance, right? Because we harvest in the summertime. So this is sort of my abundance and, you know, vitality altar that I made. And you can see my crystal of choice is carnelian. Because for me, I know crystals are very personal to people, as you were saying, Caroline. I think it's much better to pick things based on what feels right for you. Yes. But I always feel very much full. I get a very self-loving feeling from carnelian, and I do get a very energetic feeling. So that's why I chose it to put in bed. And it's even a flame. It's a flame carnelian. Oh, beautiful. So I like doing these because the crystal just helps, you know, it adds to the energy of the ritual.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, and I think that's so true when you talked about the intention with the ritual, and what Caroline was saying about you're putting the intention through programming into crystals to actually enhance that aspect.
Well, I think the intention's really important, and also, you know, the person maybe who was giving the crystal healing, because the more experienced they are, the stronger their intention, the better outcome. It's like I said to Paul earlier, you wouldn't expect somebody, a young person that had just passed their driving test, to put them in a McLaren race car and expect them to do well. You know, when we've had crystal healing, those crystal healers have been trained for 3, sometimes 4 years. They're setting a powerful intention with each crystal they're choosing. I mean, I was just blown away with the first crystal healing I had. I was like, wow, I was on another planet, I think. But, you know, setting that intention is so important. So
yeah, definitely. And it's in the same way that we actually use this Amethyst Geode. That actually bought for you as a present one year. And this has come all the way over with us from the UK. And we write people's names on paper and we put them into this geode and ask that it sends out the healing energies to them that they need at that time.
So Christine, great as ever. Thank you so much for your offerings with the crystals, with the elixirs, and I think it just makes it easier to have that confidence to go out and do it when somebody's talked you through it. So thank you so much.
Yes.
It was great.
Thank you.
It's love being with you guys. Thank you.
Love you too. Oh, bless her. So that was great. So we're going to now, I know on Zoom and possibly on YouTube, the sound of the healing bowl I'm going to play in a moment may not be brilliant, but I just wanted to demonstrate it. So here it is. And as I said, my dear friend very generously allowed me to have a loan of this for the live lounge. Bless her. So Cheryl, thank you so much. And I just hope I can do it justice. So crystal bowls are made up of 98.9% silicon quartz. And the reason why the tones vibrate and have a natural affinity to the body is it's the same in our body as it is in the silicon quartz. So the human body is composed of many crystalline substances, the bones, the blood, our DNA. They are all crystalline in structure. So, and the structure of the brain, and they do affect our brain waves. So I know through the sound affecting brainwave activity, you can be put into an altered state of consciousness. And Paul and I have actually experienced this, haven't we?
Yeah, oh, definitely. Yeah. I mean, through that concert,
or
several
Crystal Bowls concert.
And the way the energy and the different bowls that were being played, you'd feel it on a different part of the body. And it really took you to a whole new sort of level of consciousness and awareness.
Really feel the waves coming over you, and they can instill a really deep sense of peace and relaxation and open up an inner space within us. So they are great. So I won't do it for long because, as I said, I don't think the sound is going to be brilliant, but it'll just give you an idea, and I please hope it works for me. So it does build. Here we go.
Feel the vibrations coming off of that as well.
Yeah, you can feel it going through your head,
and not just well, it's twofold. It's the vibration of it and that energy, but it's also the sound.
It is.
Yeah.
But it is a form of vibrational medicine which validates that everything in the universe is in a state of vibration, and the frequency of what an object or person most naturally vibrates at is called resonance. So as I said, the chakras, the bones, they all possess a different resonant frequency. And when it's out of tune, you know, that's when we have dis-ease or disease. And a healthy body, you know, by creating a healthy resonance, we can really affect the body in a positive way.
And that's how the sound interacts with the body, by actually creating a cleansing and releasing of that congestion, and actually bringing it back into that healthy resonance on every level.
And the Tibetans as well, you've probably seen the Tibetan Bowls, and they use bells and chimes and chanting as part of their spiritual practice to raise their consciousness. And as I said, they can really bring you into an altered state of consciousness. Perhaps not with me using the bowl, but with somebody that is very experienced and good at what they do. So I would, ever you get the chance to go to a crystal ball concert, I would just so encourage you. It's such a wonderful experience.
It is great. One, definitely put it on your wish list.
So I might just say a couple of stones. So I've mentioned Labradorite, and these are, right, you can probably see they're very iridescent and they're quite mystical. And these like bring in a lot more light. They can help calm anxiety and overactive mind. They help stimulate the imagination and bring up new ideas. And they actually Labradorite actually, and I've got a bigger one here. Do you want to hold that up, Paul? Actually synthesizes intellectual thought with the intuition and intuitive wisdom. So that's a really nice stone. And the funny thing is, I actually bought this in Brixton in London about a year before we emigrated, and I've used that quite regular.
And I love it as well because it's in the shape of a heart. Love that.
So, and if you're having any problems with headaches or insomnia, stress and anxiety, another good one, I mean there's so many, but the Lapis Lazuli is really good for that. It's the brow chakra, it's related to that, and it's really good. It connects the physical, mental and emotional bodies to the spiritual, and so does amethyst. Moonstone is good for any emotional stress. It's a really nice one. It improves emotional intelligence. It can soothe the emotions. It's also good for the female reproductive system and hormones. And it can help calm hyperactive children. So good one to know about. But as I say, there's so much information out there, and utilizing crystals into your energy field around your home to help keep away the negative forces of TVs, of computers, of our telephones, and shungite is another one that really does protect from that EMFs.
And you can go to one of our previous YouTube videos and catch up on what we did on that topic. And it was interesting what Christine was saying about creating that elixir, infusing water with the energies of crystals, very much in the same way as we spoke about in was it last week we did about the batch flower remedies, and infusing it with water. So it's all about that infusion and that intention
and that vibrational energy. So
wonderful.
So we wouldn't say obviously just use the crystals for healing. You always need to get that other advice, but they're just a really good addition to your toolkit. Very calming, very energizing, very replenishing, and that of your energies. So I hope you found that really interesting. It's been so good to be with you. As I said, we love crystals. We wear them and use them every day, and we hope you've found something helpful for you. Remember, it's the full moon, supermoon eclipse on the 26th of May. So this should be on YouTube by then.
Definitely. I'll be working on it and I'll be posting it. We'll send a link out for it. But it'll be ready before the full moon.
So remember, you can put them out before, on the night and after. So they really get that charging and cleansing from that beautiful full moon. And take care. Thank you so much for spending your time with us. We really do appreciate it, and we love feeling your energies. We love being with you, and just building up this soul family. So I'm going to send you all the love from my heart. But and before then, Paul wanted to say...
the next show is on June 16th. Wednesday, June 16th.
And then we're having a break for 2 or 3 months. So we'll be back to you with some more information and updates on that, won't we? So we hope you've enjoyed the show. I look forward to, we'll post a few things along the bottom for YouTube watchers. And thank you to all our friends in England that are so good at watching and giving us feedback and commenting. Thank you so much. We really, really appreciate it.
Yeah, love it.
So from my heart to yours and all my beautiful crystals, sending you lots of love. Have a beautiful month. Enjoy the super full moon. Remember to set those intentions and let go of anything that it's time to release, to move into the new and the better.
And the cleansing and the expansion.
Yeah. So from the Soul Crew, lots of love and bye for now.
Take care, everybody.
Love you. Bye.